to We Are Biostimulant, the official podcast of Biostimulant.com. I'm Monica, and as we continue our series speaking with biostimulant distributors from various regions of the world, Jack Schmitz joins us from North Dakota in the United States. Jack has spent most of his life in agriculture, having grown up on a farm and working many years in the industry. He's currently a wholesale representative with Wilbur Ellis. Jack, welcome, and thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, good morning, Monica.
Jack, help us understand a little bit about what you do in regards to biostimulants.
Sure, Monica. I guess for the last 8 years working for distribution, I've had the opportunity to, sell and maybe position a number of biostimulants, to my accounts, my customers, which would be primarily wholesale customers. And I also work through, crop consultants. I do grower meetings and maybe get in front of growers once in a while, but my focus is really the retailers and crop consultants that I work with in my trade area.
Through those 8 years, how have you seen the biostimulant industry evolve?
So I think there's just been so much more research done that really has increased the effectiveness, I think, of these products and really gained support, I think, in the field from growers.
And from an agronomical standpoint, what are the largest challenges that the growers in your region face?
We know weed control for growers has probably become the number one, obstacle. And a lot of that's due to weed resistance. And it's causing growers to make multiple applications of herbicides to control the difficult weeds. And I believe this approach to weed control, that is making multiple applications with different modes of actions and utilizing, what the industry is calling layered residual herbicides, is putting a lot of stress on our crops. And these crops, whether they're conventional crops or crops that utilize a herbicide trait, must metabolize the herbicide through our crops. And in many cases, the time it takes to metabolize the herbicide within the crop causes a period of slow growth that can limit the yield potential. And we've been so focused over years of controlling pests like weeds and insects and diseases, and we've maybe forgot about technology that's become available today and getting much better, that we can help that plant internally deal with certain stresses throughout the season. So the use of biostimulants is still growing. I think it's the fastest growing segment probably in our industry. It's probably one of the funnest segments to speak to. It's hard sometimes to see what happens, Monica, within the plant. It's easier to see an herbicide control a weed because you actually can see that weed maybe disappear. Sometimes difficult to recognize what's happening within that plant. But our benefits have really come with more yield, and that is probably the most sought after thing for the grower.
Yeah, I hear that from other regions I speak with as well. Now, on another note, as a distributor, you seek to discover the newest and most effective biostimulant products available, and you work to understand all the newest technology and their benefits. Do you see the growers themselves actively looking for that same type of information?
Monica, I think most growers are looking at each growing season as an opportunity to do a better job than the year previous. I think most growers are very competitive, and their goal is to raise, a better crop each season. Not every grower has, a lot of years to get that accomplished, and it's the opportunity to introduce innovation like biostimulants to the grower. And some growers are more adaptive to technology. Some growers are probably followers. Probably targeting the early adapters. Biostimulants are still a very new product. A lot of growers are still trying to understand the value that it can bring that farm, and continued success with third-party trials and local trials, as well as land grant university trials, has helped positions more and more each year.
Okay. And through those years, Jack, tell us about some of the advancements you've seen, not just in the types of biostimulant products available, but perhaps also in the effects that you're seeing in the field.
Yeah, I think, Monica, the last 10 years, the biostimulants that enter the marketplace are just getting better. I think just the science, the research behind them, and I think identifying the optimum, timing to utilize these biostimulants. I think initially, some of the early studies, probably has a benefit where you put it down at planting time or foliar or later in the crop year. But I think as more and more research being done, they can identify that optimum window, and that makes the efficiencies and the efficacy much more beneficial, I think, to the end user, because it is an additional cost to that grower's program. But again, you can realize maybe some better differences that capture an ROI for that grower.
And help us understand where growers are using these newer technologies.
I think the use of biostimulants probably come with the more high value crops initially. And in my trade area, I guess I'd consider sugar beets, dry edible beans, canola as some of the higher value crops. But we're seeing maybe some more research being done on the corn and soybeans, and a lot of those growers raise those high value crops as well. So they're maybe moving some of those applications into the conventional, the row crops like corn and soybeans. So we're seeing more growers utilize them across more acres.
Yeah, which sounds like great news, Jack. Now, as you see more growers utilize biostimulants, and out of everything else that you've seen, what do you see as the most significant benefits that growers are realizing that is therefore contributing to this increase?
I think one of the biggest benefits of using a biostimulant, it's that unseen, I guess, yield reduction that we probably don't see regularly in the field. It's that plant that's under stress. And again, these biostimulants have shown and proven to us in the field that if we can keep that plant growing every day, every hour throughout the growing season, we generally create a larger plant. Mm-hmm. And especially certain times that growing season when it's into that flowering or fruiting or setting seed or that reproductive stage, any additional stress can lower our yield potential. So I think it's those areas there that we've seen the biggest use and response from using a biostimulant. So we're going to continue to look at those application timings. And again, like I've maybe mentioned earlier, we're just putting so much more stress on that plant in controlling weeds that biostimulants can help that plant get through that stressful period.
Yeah, agreed. Jack, turning now to a different question regarding sustainability. Share with us your thoughts about the role biostimulants can play in your region to help improve both sustainable practices and results in the field.
Yeah, I think, there's no more new land that's being available to farm. And I think every grower operation has acres of land that maybe is less productive. And again, that's where biostimulants, I think, can have a role. It can maybe help those tougher situations. We've seen with biostimulants in North Dakota that if you get some higher salt levels, that the use of a biostimulant can help that plant overcome that stress and, again, produce more yield. So at the end of the day, we're just doing a better job of getting more yield off every acre that we farm, whether the land is highly productive or land that's maybe considered less productive.
I've seen recent interest in the possible changes to quality markers in crops. For example, higher protein, sugar, or nutrient content with use of biostimulants. And I find that very noteworthy. We speak so often about the yield increases associated with the possibility of increased nutrient content, for example. I think would be very interesting to end consumers. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I think, Monty, you're exactly right. I think sometimes myself and maybe our industry gets too focused on the yield that shows up in the grain cart or the semi or the elevator or the grain bin. But quality is probably just as important, and maybe in a lot of cases more important. And I think we've seen where biostimulants can just increase the quality of the crop because everything's more uniform and it's maybe got a larger seed or a seed that's got more protein in it because that plant's been able to continue to grow throughout the growing season and utilize the nutrients and the sunshine. So I do believe quality and biostimulants do work together.
Jack, are there any specific technologies that you're particularly interested in as we look forward?
Monica, that's a good question. I think around nutrition is something that's very important. And again, as we produce more yield, larger plants, they all utilize more nutrients, right? And I think
Mm-hmm.
there are products maybe coming in the market that help that plant become more efficient users of what's available. So maybe not in every case do we have the right amount of a nutrient, but if we can have a product that can help that plant just be more efficient in what it utilizes, and maybe it's in moisture because again in North Dakota, in a lot of cases, the limiting factor has been growing season moisture. And if we have a plant that can be more efficient around water, I think we're going to see better yield and better qualities.
Yes, indeed, we hear a lot about various use efficiencies that are improved with biostimulants, including water, as you've just mentioned, which of course is very exciting. How about your thoughts about the future of biostimulants? What do you see coming?
Well, I think biostimulants are going to continue to grow. I think there's just more manufacturers looking at that opportunity because the segment is growing. And I think when you've got more people doing more research on a particular biostimulant, you're going to see just efficiencies increase when it comes to the use of biostimulants. And again, a lot of science yet to be learned. It's about timing and when to utilize them. And maybe some crops respond maybe differently to a particular biostimulant. So I just think the more people looking at it, more people using it, we're all going to be helping us to identify the best optimum product and timing in the future. Growers are starting to ask about them, which is probably something I haven't seen, I guess, in the last 10 years. So it tells me that some of the growers utilizing these tools are finding some success.
hmm So that's definitely a positive sign towards an increased understanding and adoption of use for biostimulant products. Jack, before I let you go, is there anything else you'd like to share?
Oh, Monica, I think we've covered it all. I just, it's a tool that more people need to utilize. And but the challenge is to segment your customer base that because there's a segment of people out there that want to try something new every year, and they're looking for products like this. So that you've got to work at it a little bit, Monica. It's not taken for granted.
I imagine that's very true. There's a lot at risk for the growers when they make new changes or even when they don't. Well, Jack, it was my pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your insights with Biostimulant.com.
It's been a treat to visit, so thank you.